Where is he? Where's Zach?
Hi, my name is Zach Galifianakis.
Welcome to another edition of Between Two Ferns.
Welcome to another episode of Between Two Ferns.
Welcome to another edition of Between Two Ferns. I'm your host, Zach Galifianakis.
Talk shows have thrived as a staple form of television for more than half a century, and they've remained largely immobile when it comes to shared goals. Regardless of whether you were tuning into Oprah for a lifestyle type of program, or seeing which celebrities would come onto The Tonight Show to promote their new work, there's always a very rational kind of presentation. Yes, for every subgenre or rotation of hosts through the ages, talk shows have remained steadfast in providing some kind of comfort to viewers, a kind of consistency in the presentation of topics discussed, all shaped by how the host portrays the show. There's such a consistent through line of how these shows are staged, aired, and stylized to where it's reasonable to assume most have seen at least one kind of talk show before. Combine this wide appeal with their comforting tone, and you have the perfect avenue for a parody, a complete subversion of the talk show.
How old were you when you lost your virginity? 0? I'll tell you about when I lost my virginity.
I would really not like to hear that.
Enter comedian Zach Galifianakis, established personality who gained notoriety through stand-up as well as several roles in Comedy Central productions. What really put Galifianakis in the spotlight was his role in The Hangover and its subsequent films, and trust me, we'll be revisiting that later. Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis is the culmination of unique sketches and experimentation. Zach being someone who's always had this interest in dissecting and satirizing the Hollywood machine, involving the ever-prevalent celebrity interview. The core appeal involves inappropriate questions and a passive-aggressive tone that has Zach push up against his guests.
So you hosted Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. That was like a dream come true.
Whose? What's the matter? Did Elaine Boozler drop out?
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Zach.
Zach.
When you factor in the talent and direction that would come from Scott Aukerman, you can see that the two really had something here. After pitching the initial idea for the show to network TV, the site Funny or Die took up the mantle, and the rest is history. Chances are you've seen one of these installments throughout the last decade or so. Most episodes received stellar viewership, and the series received recognition through collaborations, such as former President Barack Obama's appearance where he encouraged viewers to enroll in health insurance. If all that wasn't enough, Between Two Ferns the movie released in 2019 and included several brand new interview segments in the style viewers had come to expect from Zach, steadfast in his role.
Can you take some constructive criticism?
Yeah.
People find you unpleasant.
Thank you.
So, what brings me to talk about Between Two Ferns? I'd like to pick apart what makes this show tick, and perhaps answer why it has been so successful. And we'll let this be a reminder to water your plants.
Dude, don't do that.
The clever theming behind how Between Two Ferns presents its cast, stage, and production assets provides the show its overarching charm and context. The name, Between Two Ferns, is a mundane title that matches how intentionally bland the set design is. Two ferns sit at the edges of the frame, a simple table, 2 chairs, and a black curtain behind the host and guest. That's all there is to it, and it's emblematic of the reality which faces many public broadcasting programs in the US. Funding that often leaves the heroes of public TV in difficult positions, trying to make the most of their resources. It's important to note that Between Two Ferns isn't interested in satirizing public access TV by punching down. The joke behind the presentation is something of a blunt truth for many programs, but also at the expense of Zach's personality on the show. It kind of implies that Zach prioritizes spending public funding to obtain his celebrity guests instead of improving the abysmal production value, which is a genuinely funny implication. Every episode begins with a title card that features a flat blue color and a retro-styled font that feels like it was chosen arbitrarily. Celebrity names are misspelled intentionally as another reflection of the care Zach puts into his programming. Some of these are just insane, and the titles given for the guests are equally daft. My favorite example of how Between Two Ferns tells its jokes through presentation is with its theme music. Many episodes feature blatant stealing of the reprise of the main theme from Taxi Driver, originally composed by Dave Bloom. There is not a single acknowledgement of this within the show or on any text, which is an incredible link to Zach's on-screen ignorance to the quality of his own show. Of course, no one is fooled into thinking Funny or Die actually stole copyrighted music for this show, but the blatant reuse works in the show's universe perfectly. There's one key strength behind Between Two Ferns that is still tied to how it's presented. These hilarious interviews aren't presented through a late-night talk show. These are concise videos posted online. I cannot stress enough how integral this has been to the success. The shift from the original short film format to an internet video format was right on the mark for capturing the particular audience that would understand and enjoy the satirical take on the talk show. No episode is longer than a few minutes, including specials like the holiday episode or the Oscar Buzz edition. Brevity is a key to the format. You need restraint when filming an unscripted show like this to maximize viewer retention online. You have to attribute part of the success of Between Two Ferns towards these details. Scott Aukerman and Zach Galifianakis knew exactly how to present their comedic darling in order to reach the most people and get the most laughs. This won't surprise anybody, but a large aspect of the comedic genius behind the series is Zach himself. Even so, what exactly is he doing to make this so damn funny?
How long did it take you to apologize to each one of them for Bumblebee? I walked out of that movie. I'm just kidding, I didn't walk out of the movie. I skipped out because I was so happy to be leaving.
Wow.
Zach's comedic talents have to be addressed, and Between Two Ferns is designed entirely around his strengths. Viewers will quickly get accustomed to his harsh interview style that features more than just inappropriate comments. It evolves through awkward non sequiturs, lazy product placements, and even physical altercation in some instances. The interviews get off track in a variety of ways, and often due to Zach's own misdeeds and interference. His persona on the show is unlikable for a natural environment, but it's impossible not to be entertained. I've made allusions to the nature of the unscripted format, but it has been revealed that there are specific pointers that are given based on the direction of the filming up to that point. At least, that's what I've been able to gather. Even still, Zach remains steadfast in his constant use of anti-humor in his questions and retorts. If light and breezy humor was a staple of the traditional talk show, then Between Two Ferns employs Zach's interests in anti-humor to gain a laugh. The main idea behind anti-humor, or anti-comedy, is that the joke is presented in an intentionally unfunny manner, which goes back around to creating humor in a sort of meta sense. It's the classic example of the comedian saying something unfunny, but the reaction from the receiving end brings the house down.
No, you're supposed to say, yeah, you know me. Like the hip-hop groove.
Don't tell me what to say.
Fine, lose. Country goes to shit.
This approach grants Zach the opportunity to create a comedically hostile environment that allows for great escalation through that passive-aggressive tone. There's also a dryness to the whole affair that makes the interviews feel stuffy and uncomfortable for everyone, without going into an exhaustive length of making its point. Zach really ought to be credited for steering the quality of the show, thanks to his clear vision of what his persona next to the fern ought to be. There are additional layers to Zach's comedic direction that come from an even more meta foundation. Remember when I said that Zach received a lot of acclaim for his role in The Hangover? Well, as the story goes, the two sequels to that hit film were largely flawed, and they hurt the reputation of all involved from a comedic standpoint. There are several references to the blunder of the Hangover franchise throughout the run of Between Two Ferns, which is a key example of how Zach is showing self-awareness towards its audience and the industry at large. In fact, I would go as far to say that the show actually attempts to reclaim the reputation of The Hangover, but doing so in an honest and comedic way. My favorite example of the staple involves Barack Obama addressing the middling progress of the interview in real time, and then adds jealousy factor for Zach into the mix.
Some of the episodes have probably been a little bit better than this. You know, for example, the one with Bradley Cooper, that was a great
Bradley
show.
Cooper, everybody loves
He kind of carried that movie, didn't he?
Which film are you speaking of?
Those Hangover movies. Basically, he carried them.
Yeah, everybody loves Bradley. Good for him.
Good-looking guy.
Being like that in Hollywood, that's easy. Tall, handsome, that's easy. Be short, fat, and smell like Doritos and try to make it in Hollywood.
Better yet, Jerry Seinfeld asks a pointed question about the films to Zach.
Do you think if they only made one Hangover and didn't make the other two, it would be considered a comedy classic? Do you think that you destroyed what would have been a comedy classic by the cash grab of 2 and 3?
Hey, it's a valid question. The last major ingredient that fulfills the master of comedy is Zach's opposite in every scenario, the guests. First and foremost, the show routinely delivers short, accessible interviews with celebrities, predominantly actors, and this makes each episode distinct almost implicitly. Beyond this, every guest enters the show knowing what the bit is, even if they don't have an idea as to what they're going to be asked about. As Zach himself has gone on record saying, it's not a prank show. So what do the guests offer? Frankly, they complete the anti-humor cycle. Their disturbed or frustrated reactions fuel the comedic tone of Between Two Ferns. Sometimes the guests are quiet and choose not to respond out of shock or to remain professional. The appeal from this is to of course see if the celebrities are going to break and start to retaliate. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. However, you won't go too long without seeing how guests contribute to the genius of the comedy. Insults are launched right back at Zach once their personas on screen realize, oh, so this is how it's gonna go. And the reactions are always just a bit different. Even still, there are some running gags which reward those who've seen a handful of episodes. References to Zach's weight act as a constant through line that many actors take advantage of to throw the dart right back at Zach. It's rude and totally satisfying because of Zach's own demeanor.
So you played in a movie called The Hunger Games.
Yeah, isn't that your life story?
You shouldn't say that. That's off-putting.
You should be off-putting. Because you're fat.
You were in Failure to Launch.
You know what movie you were not in?
What?
Failure to Lunch. Because you had 10 frickin' corn dogs you stuffed down your Gulliver
Yeah, we've been
before
through that.
lunch.
Every episode of Between Two Ferns is unique because of the variety of personalities brought onto the show. One of my favorite guest performances comes from Awkwafina, because despite Zach's abhorrent questions and sharing of opinions that nobody asks to hear, she constantly rides an even, monotonous response.
I'm Asian.
You're Asian? Really?
Caucasian.
Oh, there's a cock in front of there.
There's a cock in front of my Asian. Would
Yes.
make me Caucasian. Is that what you're saying?
She chooses to play into it, and Zach is completely unaware that she has a higher understanding of what the hell is going on. Then there's the case of Conan O'Brien and Andy Richter, where Conan expresses himself as progressively more embarrassed, as Zach asks his passive-aggressive questionnaire along to him.
What's funny is when I was about 20,
I'm just getting ready.
well, initially when I was 25, I was thinking about being a male model, but that didn't work out. This is not bad. Come on. Oh, come on. This isn't bad.
Ben Stiller's is a case study on how to insult your guest with subtle escalation of insults to the point where he walks off.
Do you wish that you had ever followed your parents into comedy? Taken that route? Comedy route?
Okay. I'm done.
Go to the bathroom?
No, I'm leaving.
And finally, I have to mention the interview with Steve Carell, which immediately lets the audience know that Carell is well ahead of the usual antics. He comes in hot and immediately calls out what Zach is about to say regarding his career, to which Zach awkwardly whispers and assures him that he's not up to any tricks.
All right, listen, Steve, I'm not going to do the insults like I usually do.
Oh,
I'm not going to say your character on Despicable Me. I hear that they were going to base the nose of the character on your nose, but decided to go for something less cartoonish.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that. Let's just do a straight interview.
Straight interview, okay.
Sure. Right. And, how did that turn out?
What is the thing that you're most proud of in your career?
Oh, Evan Almighty, of course.
That's a good
what I'm most
movie.
proud of.
That's a good movie.
Fuck you, fatty.
Steve, I'm not.
Just lead me right into that and smack me across
It's
the
a
face.
great movie.
Okay.
It's easily my favorite episode, and it's worth noting that it definitely succeeds as much as it does thanks to how it subverts Between Two Ferns. And this is why it's nice that no interviewee took to the extreme of Carell's ever since. Without the cooperation and unique approaches from the various guests that have appeared throughout the years, Between Two Ferns would be incomplete in its goal. People flock to these episodes because of the celebrity names attached, so the fact that they bring their material to the forefront as much as they do really seals the deal for Zach and the show at large. As we've discussed throughout, the success and uniqueness of Between Two Ferns can be attributed to specific presentation, the vision of its humorous host, and the guest performances on the show. Zach Galifianakis tapped into a unique combination of a spontaneous, anti-humor approach to the talk show format with the presentation and style of a public broadcast network that's completely unequipped to handle his madness. The jokes are sharp, but not overly indulgent, and the atmosphere is unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's telling that even after all these years, I still watch a random episode of Between Two Ferns during some downtime. The show has never lost its luster despite occasionally dating itself. It's the desire to constantly provide viewers with the kind of experience people are used to thinking is impossible within this setup, and that's what really makes it work. The fact that these interviews aren't actually a train wreck and that the actors are in on the joke only enhances the strange and unique atmosphere of the show. If the guests were kept in the dark completely, the show would likely be dumbed down by the same trappings that plague a lot of reality television. In that sense, Between Two Ferns maintains its humor and brilliance thanks to the creators maintaining control over what needs to remain consistent for the show to shine, namely its tone, but also by placing enough trust in its guests to bring their own comedic reactions and jabs to the table, especially if your name is Steve Carell.
Fuck you, fatty.
The future of Between Two Ferns is quite vague, but even if we never see another edition, its status will surely prevail. Admittingly, the format has run its course in many regards. The man himself has even spoke to similar tunes in interviews following the release of the movie. It would take some intuitive reworking of its satirical nature to provide the show with a fresh appeal. But even if nothing were to come from this, I'm very happy with Between Two Ferns and the legacy it leaves behind.